merchandising and consumption. It's a whole lot of activities that are involved. And in all of this, we must always put in mind the issue of cost and quality. Those are very key issues that we must never lose sight of when we think about packaging. So the next slide, we'll be looking at the packaging system. Next slide. It's, like I said, is a combination of a number of departments, a number of areas. You'll see that in this slide, packaging is there in the middle, and it has to do with the manufacturer of the packaging. He needs to be able to manufacture the products, the packaging, which in this case is his product. You talk about the supply chain. How do the packaging materials produced by the manufacturer get to the user factory? That whole network is involved. How do you even ship them? In what containers, for example? In what state? And then you talk about the user factory. The factory needs to be able to use this packaging on their packing lines, and then trade. After packing it in the factory, it doesn't remain there. It needs to go to trade, where it is presented to customers and consumers. Packaging is still involved here. And from there, it goes to the consumers, the users, the end users. Packaging is also very relevant here because that is what they go to pick from the shop. And finally, marketing. Marketing is a continuous process. You need to continue to market your product, and packaging also plays a very key role in this. So it's a whole web of activities that are involved in packaging. Now we go on to look at why we package a product. Why do we package? Why can't you just make, for example, toothpaste, and then the consumers decide how they want to use it? So the first item here is containment. You want to be able to put your product in a container, in a case, in something that would be able to move it from one place to another without it being messed up. In fact, making it usable. I would give you an example with toothpaste, for example. Pardon me, that is my background, so you hear me referring to products from Unilever. If you make toothpaste and you put it in a cup, then what follows? Is it in a state where it can be used by the consumer? It needs to get into a proper container. That is the first use of the packaging. And then we'll talk about protection. Using our toothpaste example again, if it is in a cup, I bet you that by the time you come and look at it after some time, you will see that some changes have taken place in the product. So you want the package to be able to protect your product, to be able to keep it in a usable and a good state until it gets to the end user. And it's also for identification. You need packaging to be able to tell that, okay, this is Close Up, this is Maclean's, this is Oral-B. It is through packaging you're able to do that differentiation. You give it identity, give it a unique name for itself. Packaging serves that purpose. And then communication. With the packaging, you are able to communicate a lot of information to the consumers, to the trade, on what this product is all about. You are able to contain a lot of information there, and this is possible with the use of packaging. Then we talk about storage. You know that you do not, for example, buy toothpaste to use on the day and you discard it. No, you want to be able to use it again and again. And what that means is that you should be able to keep it in a state, in a good state, that when you come back tomorrow, you are still able to use the product. And that is the role of packaging. Also, dispensing. If we continue with our toothpaste in a cup example, you made toothpaste and you put it in an open cup. How do you use it? Do you dip your finger into it to apply on your toothbrush? Do you dip the brush into the cup to get toothpaste? No, you wouldn't want to do that. So packaging also plays a role of allowing you to have the right level of, for example, in the case of toothpaste, the size of orifice where you can apply your product in a decent and convenient manner. And finally, distribution. Packaging is important for you to be able to carry your product from one place to another. Then we'll now be looking at some considerations in selecting a packaging. This list is not in any way exhaustive. I just put here some of the considerations, some of the issues you should consider when picking a pack. The first one is type of product. What kind of product are you going to be putting in this packaging? Different kinds of products require different kinds of packaging in terms of material, in terms of shape, in terms of size. So you want to be sure, is this a product that needs a certain kind of material so that there's no reaction? Is it a product that requires special protection from adverse conditions? So you must have that consideration. What kind of product am I going to put into this package? The next point is your target market. Who are you going to be selling this product to? Who are you targeting as your main market to sell this product? Is it high-end? Is it a high-end product? Is it for the masses? All of this will play a role, because you do not want to, for example, if you are designing for the masses, you do not want to go for a packaging type that is so expensive and will make it out of reach for the for your target market. So the target market is also very important. You think of the channels of sale and distribution. Where is this product going to be traveling through? Where is this packaging going to be traveling through? And that will determine what kind of packaging you decide to go for, in terms of size, in terms of type again, and in terms of so many other attributes of packaging. And then what are you targeting in terms of the financials? Is this a low margin, high volume product, or is it a high margin product? You need to be sure what are you targeting. This is because packaging, like we'll see later in the presentation, plays a very significant role in the overall cost of your product. So you are at the early stage, you should be thinking, what margin am I expecting from this product that I'm going to pack in this packaging? That will determine what you use to pack your product. And then competition. What is competition doing? Remember that you are going into a market, very unlikely that you are going to be the first person to be selling that kind of product. So you want to be sure, what is competition doing? What is going to give me an edge when I come into that sector? That is also key. And then manufacturing capability. When I talk of manufacturing capability here, we are not only talking about the packing factory, but even the supplier. So you want to be sure that there's available capability at the supplier's end to be able to deliver the product that you are going for. So the supplier factory, as well as your own factory that will be making the product. And then finally, very importantly, regulatory and legal requirements. Are there legal requirements you need to consider in designing this packaging? Is this material allowed in this part of the country, in this part of the world? You need to consider all of that. What are some of the information I must take into consideration in terms of regulatory and legal requirements? So these are some of the considerations that you need to put in place when going for a new pack. In the next few minutes, we'll be looking at the attributes of a good packaging. Once again, I'll mention that these are not all, but I've just tried to bring out some of the things you should expect your packaging to be able to do for your product. The first one is that it should be able to provide identity for your product. It should be easy to know that this is what this product is through the means of packaging. So if you look at this slide, you will see that we have cooking oil in a jar. I think it's very difficult for anybody to know what this cooking oil is. Is it the unbranded oils that are said to be dangerous to health? Is it a premium oil? We are not able to tell. It's just a yellow color liquid in a glass jar. But guess what? Look at the picture below. You see that branding has come in. And with this, the product that was just so ordinary in the pack suddenly has identity. You can say, okay, I want a bottle of this oil, or I want a bottle of that oil. That is the first thing that your packaging does. A good packaging should do for your product. And here you can play with shape, color, design, choice of material. You can use all of these elements to differentiate your one pack from the other, one product from the other. The second one is that it should support the brand image. Every brand has an image, every brand has what it represents, and your packaging is an excellent tool to communicate these values to your consumer. So if you look at the picture on this slide, the next slide, please. If you look at this picture, you would agree with me that even somebody who is not lettered, who cannot read, you don't need to guess at all to know what this product, this packaging here is offering to you. That is because packaging has been used as a platform to communicate what this product is and what you expect to get from it. Again, here you can play with brand logo, with symbols, with pictures, and with even the font type. For example, you see a font and you just know that, oh, this is Coca-Cola. Oh, this is Close Up. Oh, this is Lux. Because every brand has its own unique identity. Also, a good pack should give should display the name of the product on all faces as much as possible. Remember that it is going to be displayed on a shelf, on a tabletop, in the trade, on a gondola, and you want the shopper to be able to recognize what this product is. You do not want them to have to strain their eyes too much, so you must consider the distance that they could be from the shelf. You put very bold pack name, the very bold product name on the faces. If you look at this picture of close-up, you will see that on every face that we can see, the branding is there. So it doesn't matter in what direction the consumer is looking at the pack, or the customer, the shopper, you are able to recognize that this is close-up. That is what a good pack should be able to deliver to you. And the next one is that it should be distinctive. It should be very distinct in its appearance. And that's really up to you, what you, the packaging, the product owner or the brand owner, decides to do with it. It should be distinct. It should stand out of the crowd. It should have personality. And you can also create differences here using the same attributes that we had mentioned before. And we just put a note here that what is distinctive today can be commonplace tomorrow. So you need to continuously innovate. You need to continuously think what yeah, you see the picture of the shelf here. Look at the number of products that are there. So you want your product to be that one that will stand out, that will be distinct on the shelf. The next attribute of a good pack is that it should make for an effective display. So when designing your artwork, when designing your packaging, you want to ask yourself, how will this look if they are displayed en masse on the shelf? So here you can play with colors. Some strong colors are very good. For example, you look at this picture of Lux soap, you will see that it's a very strong design. So imagine a long aisle with this kind of design. It will stand out. It would make a very good display. So you should consider that in putting design on your packaging. It should be something that will stand out and give you a very good display on shelf. It should be attention grabbing. And what we mean by this is, if you go to the next slide, you will have a look at these two pictures here. Even if you didn't set out to buy these things, I can imagine that if you go into the trade with your child, it's very likely to point at this pack of biscuits because it is announcing itself, come for me, buy me, eat me. So you should think of this when you are getting your packaging. It should be able to grab attention. It should call for the attention of the shopper or the customer, because remember that there's so much struggling for the few minutes, short time that they have to spend in the shopping outlet. So you want your pack to be one of those ones that will call for their attention. The other example there is a water bottle. Typically, we have a cylindrical shape of bottles for water, but then you now see this looking like a perfume bottle and it's for water. There's the tendency that you want to pick it up, get curious, look at it, and most likely maybe buy one just to experience it. This is the kind of packaging that even when you drink your water, you may not want to throw the bottle away because it looks so unique. And then we continue with the attributes of a good pack. It should contain essential information. This is very important. It should contain essential information. You don't want to be found wanting in terms of the information that you are supposed to provide. So, for example, you put usage instructions. How should the product be used? How should it be dispensed? All of those should be on the packaging. What are the ingredients? What are the contents? What is the nutritional information that this product that we need to know about this product? It should all be on the packaging. It should also show the weight. I think that's a regulatory requirement. You must show the weight of your product, net weight. What is the weight of this product? It should show precautions and safety information where relevant. So if there is a safety information that the consumer needs to consider when handling this product, it should be written on the packaging clearly for the use of the person who is going to handle the product. It should also show the date and batch information. It should show the date and batch information. You should be able to decipher when this product was made, how long does it still have to stay on the shelf, and if for any reason you need to send information back regarding the product, you should be able to quote what batch exactly it was made of. And then company contact details, manufacturing, the manufacturer's details, address, phone number, all of those should be on the packaging. And then it should contain scannable GS1 barcodes. Yes, I repeat, scannable GS1 barcodes where applicable. We recommend that if there's anybody on this call who's not be using GS1 barcodes, the time to do that is now. Make sure that your products have scannable barcodes, because if it doesn't scan well on the trade, you could get penalized. I think one of the other speakers will be speaking in details concerning barcodes. So these are some information that must be on a good pack, and it should also be convenient to use. I don't know if some of us have experienced, you buy a pack and you are struggling to open it. One of my bosses used to joke that it is protected against the consumer. So you buy a product to use and enjoy, but you find that you are struggling to open it. In the process, some of them even spill on you. So a good packaging shouldn't behave like that. It should be easy to use, to open and close. It should be easy to dispense and pour, measure, apply. You can use various ways to deliver this value to the consumer. You could put tear notches, you could put perforations, a dispensing device, a measuring device, just to make it easy for the user to dispense. And it should be easy and tidy to store. You don't know, nobody wants a pack that when you store it, before you come back, your product has spilled all over the place, or it's not well kept. It should be easy to use and tidy to store. It should be stable on the shelf and table. This is very important also, because you don't want to design a packaging that when the person is, when it is being used, it keeps falling off, because it is not stable. Center of gravity has not been considered. It keeps falling off. In the process, it could get damaged, it could get broken. A lot of things can go wrong if you do not take into consideration that it must be able to fit on the table and on the shelf, remaining stable. And then it should be easy to hold and carry. You don't design a package that is too heavy. You, for example, you want to design a cream, body cream, and you go and do a 1 kilogram pack. How do you want the person to use it? So you must, a good packaging must be in the right weight, considering the consumer or the target audience it has been made for. And it should be safe to use. It should be safe to use. Don't, a good pack should not come with parts that can easily choke or harm, if, for example, there are children in the home. So consider all of this in designing the packaging. And finally, it should be reusable as much as possible. Yes, there are some instances where that may not be feasible, but as much as possible, we should design packaging that is reusable. By so doing, you are helping the environment. You are not allowing waste and landfill to be made up of all the waste from your packaging. So it's very important that as much as possible, a good pack should be reusable. Okay. Attributes of a good pack. We continue, and this point is now talking about the legal and regulatory requirements. It should comply with legal and regulatory requirements. So in Nigeria, for example, we'll talk about NAFDAC, we'll talk about SON, and I dare add GS1 here because we want it to begin to record in the mind of everyone that GS1 standards are a must-have on our packaging. So you make sure your barcodes are clearly printed on the pack, and if they are registered trademarks, it should also be indicated there. Okay, and then we continue with the attributes of a good pack. It should protect the content against adverse conditions. So depending on the kind of product, there are some conditions that you do not want to expose them to. A good packaging should be able to protect the product against things like moisture, light, oxygen, evaporation, drying. For example, soaps can easily dry out if they are not properly packaged. So you pack them in the kind of packaging that will retain that moist feel of the soap. And then a good pack should protect against breakage and crushing. For example, in the case of eggs, it should protect against temperature for temperature sensitive products like chocolate, margarine, fats. And then it should protect against leakage. This is very important for liquids like oils and things like that. You do not want it to leak. So it's very critical that before this packaging is released to trade, all the exhaustive testing is done to make sure that there will be no leakage of such products. There are still, the list could go on and on, but these are just some of the things you should a good pack should protect your products against. And then it should withstand transport and storage conditions. Remember that the product you have manufactured from the factory is not going to remain there. It's going into trade and it's going to be exposed to all sorts of adverse conditions. So you should consider this in designing the pack. It should be able to withstand all the abuse in quotes in trade. Even yesterday I was driving and I saw how cases of I think they were biscuits or what product it was, they were being thrown from very far in the truck to the people that were standing on the ground to receive it. So imagine if you design this kind of packaging just with the weight of the product in mind, your products will get damaged. So we must design packaging that will be able to withstand all of those abuses in trade. Long lead times, bad roads. Yes, typically in Nigeria, there are some roads that could be long stretch of bad roads. These products are going to travel through there. So you must do your transit trial. You must ensure that you have built-in sufficient robustness into the packaging to be able to withstand all of these conditions. And it must run satisfactorily in the factory. This cannot be overemphasized because at the end of the day, if you do everything and you bring the packaging to the factory, it does not run. It's like an exercise in futility. So remember that companies are going more into high packing lines, high speed lines, automations. So the packaging should be able to cooperate with these conditions. Our colleagues in marketing, they can have all sorts of very nice dreams, very nice imagination, world-class packaging, but we have put an illustration here to say there must always be that balance. So it's good to have all the good ideas, but there must be a balance between the marketing intention and the factory capability. If this is not taken into consideration, it can lead to things like out of stock, cost variances because you have high rejects, poor quality products, which will ultimately lead to customer and consumer rejection, which every manufacturer or brand owner does not want to even imagine. And then it should be convenient for the trade to handle. You want to be sure of the weight. Is it going to be lifted by women? Are you putting too many in the pack? Is it in line with what the category desires in trade? It's a common practice that for a certain category of products, maybe they are in 12s, and then you just bring your own, you put 40 or 44 in a pack. Have you considered what the trade wants, what the trade is used to? So those are the things a good packaging should bear in mind when being delivered. The secondary packaging must identify the content. I don't need to tear open the brown box to know what is inside. I should be able to know the content just by looking at the secondary packaging. And then does it fit on the shop shelves? I think we had mentioned this briefly before. It should be able to fit conveniently in the shop shelf or the tabletop, depending on the channels that you are planning to use for this product. So these are some of the attributes that we expect a good packaging to deliver. And the next slide is just telling us again that cost, earlier in the presentation, cost is something we must never lose sight of. Image is good, protection is good, performance is excellent, but you must always have cost at the back of your mind because at the end of the day, you are in business to sell and make profits. So that is very important. We'll be going now into classification of packaging. There are a number of ways that we can classify our packaging. It can be in terms of role, the role they are playing. Is it a primary pack, secondary or tertiary, depending on if they are in contact with the product or is covering a second layer or a previous layer of packaging. So you can classify based on role. You can classify based on nature. We have rigid packaging, semi-rigid, and flexible packaging. The rigid one, as the name implies, it cannot be bent, it's typically rigid. Semi-rigid, there's a bit of movement that can happen with it, but not as flexible as the flexible packaging. That one can take any shape, can take the shape of the product. It can be handled to take any kind of shape. And then you also have, in terms of segment, classification of packaging can be done based on segment. Is it a consumer pack? Is it going to be used by a consumer in-house, or is it for industrial use, or is it even for distribution and wholesale? So that's where things like pallets would come in. Is it for a distribution? And then you also classify packaging based on the type. There are various types of packaging materials. So the next slide will be telling us the various types of packaging materials. We have glass, we have paper, we have plastic, metals, and composites or laminates. I will touch briefly on the various types of packaging in the next few slides. So glass is made from natural raw materials such as sand, soda ash, and limestone. And this is melted at extremely high temperatures. It has some advantages. So you will see in the picture on the top right of this slide, the next slide. Yeah, so those are different glass packaging. Some of these advantages are that it is made from naturally occurring ingredients. Remember that this is a time where we are all concerned about sustainability. So any material that is made from natural ingredients would always be, that is an advantage because it is eco-friendly. That is what it means. And then it has high barrier. Glass has very high barrier properties. It is inert and does not react with any product. You do not have any fear of product reaction when you pack it into glass. And then it is impermeable. What that means is that it's not easy for glass to take on smell, aroma, or all sorts of unwanted things from the atmosphere. That is still related to the barrier property. And it is 100% recyclable. Glass is recyclable, and it is also reusable. I saw somewhere that you can actually reuse glass up to 40 times. Even in terms of raw materials, I did my youth service in a glass manufacturing company. Part of the raw materials is always the broken pieces of glass because it is usable again and again. So those are benefits of glass, and it's very attractive. It gives this premium look to a product, maybe because of the level of clarity you can get from it. It just has this premium look and it is well loved by consumers. However, it has some disadvantages, such as the high weight and shipping costs. It is heavy, glass is heavy, and therefore it will cost you more to ship it. The production process requires very high level of energy, and this in turn has an implication on the capital required to produce glass, and which then makes it an expensive kind of packaging. It's also fragile and breakable. That is a very major disadvantage of glass. It is breakable. You need to be extra careful, otherwise you can get your pack broken. You can get it, you can even cut yourself if you are not careful. And then there's a bit of limitation in terms of its application. So mostly glass is made into bottles, into cups, into jugs. It's not versatile like you will see for some of the materials we are going to be talking about later. Then we look at metals. Metals are either in their pure form as aluminium or as alloys, which is steel and tin. Metal is very tough. You would agree with me that metal is very tough. It takes a lot of effort to be able to, unlike glass, which we just spoke about, that is breakable. Your metal will not break. The worst it could do is to dent if it falls from a very unimaginable height. So it's very tough. It's formable. You can beat it into different shapes. It's malleable. And then it has very good barrier property as well. It's not easy to have transference of flavor of aromas through the metal. Recyclable, and then it has high conductivity. You are able to use it in applications that require exposure to high temperature because you are not worried about the metal packaging giving way. And some of its negatives is weight. Some of this metal packaging can be very heavy, even though aluminum is not as heavy, but something like steel is very heavy. So if you are transporting it, you are also going to be spending a lot of money. It's opaque. So some consumers, including me here, I like to see what I am buying, but in the case of metal, it is opaque. You are not able to see the content within. That is one of the disadvantages for people that mind. And then it's expensive, like we have mentioned before, because of the cost of shipping and other processes in its that are involved in its production. And then there can be the issue of poor stability, chemical stability, and reaction with product. That is why you will notice that metal packaging are mostly coated to avoid reaction with the content. But in the case where there is a failure in such coating or a damage occurs, there's a high possibility of chemical contamination or reaction between the content and the packaging. And we have just mentioned here some of the things that metal can be made into. You have cans, boxes, trays, collapsible tubes, aluminum foil, and closures. So it's more versatile than glass. The next one we'll be looking at is paper. So paper is yet another kind of packaging, and it is made from wood and non-wood fibers. There are different types of paper, as you will see here. You have what we call kraft, coated paper, waxed, laminated, and you have white line chipboard, that's WLC. You have folding box board. Those are the white board you see in the picture. Those are the white boards that are used in perfume business or for food because they are purely virgin. White line chipboard in its case is not purely 100% virgin, but FBB is virgin. And then you have corrugated board, which is what is used in making the shipping cases. There are different kinds of fluting depending on. So if you look at the picture here, to the top of the slide, you'll see this corrugation, this zigzag pattern. That's what we call the flutes for the corrugated board. And then paper is very versatile. It can be made into almost everything. You can make boxes from paper. You can make bags. You can make cups, trays, cartons, shippers, pouches, labels, all kinds of things can be made from paper. So it's actually very popular now, replacing even plastic bags in shops because of the issue of environment and sustainability. So paper is also a very versatile kind of packaging. Finally, we look at plastics. So plastics are made from materials such as cellulose, coal, natural gas, and crude oil, and through a process of polymerization or polycondensation. It has advantages also, like you will see in this picture. You can just see the number of items that are in this picture. There's virtually nothing that cannot be produced from plastic through various processes. And it has some advantages. It's a very fast-growing segment because of its versatility. There's nothing you cannot produce from plastic. It uses less material. You can get very thin gauge of plastic and still get some good properties from it. They weigh less, so cost less to transport. Okay. And then in terms of negative attributes, it is deformable because it's not a rigid packaging. You either have it semi-rigid or it's mostly semi-rigid packaging. So you can deform. If you maybe stack them too high, you are going to have deformation, and that is not good for the product. And then the stability problem is it doesn't have as much barrier as the previous packaging materials of metal and glass that we looked at. And then there are also serious environmental issues with plastic. It's been said that plastic can last up to 10,000 years in the landfill. So a lot of innovations have happened to develop more sustainable, biodegradable versions of plastic. But plastic as it is has very huge environmental issues. Most of the drainages that are blocked is as a result of plastic that has gone in there and is not going away, not dissolving, not degrading, not decomposing. So that's a major negative. And even some kinds of plastic too, like polyvinyl chloride, that one is dangerous because it can release dangerous gases into the atmosphere when it is subjected to high temperatures. So those are some negatives of plastics. Here, I'll just mention a few plastics. We have different kinds of plastic, and the next time you buy a product made from plastic, you might want to just have a look. If it has this recycle logo at the bottom of this slide, you look at those triangles. Those are called recycle logo. It doesn't necessarily tell you that this material is recyclable. What it is telling you is that this is what it is made of. So for example, if you have one in the triangle, that's telling you that it's a PET material. So in terms of sorting, when you want to sort for the recycling companies, you know what to put where. That is what these logos are meant for. And 7 means it's not one of these materials that have been listed from 1 to 6. It could either be a combination of many plastic materials, or it does not fit into this category. And then we look at laminates. Laminates are also very popular, very, very popular, especially in when you are handling products of lower cost, because they are highly affordable. So they are made of more than one layer of material, such as adhesive, paper, plastic, aluminium. You can laminate different kinds of materials together. Normally, you would have a layer for the print, for the design, and then another layer for sealing. And then in between, you can put in all sorts of layers. We have very simple laminates of maybe 2 layers, PET PE, for example. And you can also have very complex laminates like web that are used for toothpaste. You have up to 5, 7 layers of material, depending on the properties you want to build into the material, such as barrier properties, stiffness for machine performance, and all of that. And then, like I mentioned before, they can be formed into pouches, sachets, bags, tubes, stick packs, doll packs, labels, stand-up bags. They can be formed into almost everything. I have even seen where laminates are used to make very fine woven bags. You would never imagine that these are from plastic waste. So those are some of the benefits, some of the attributes of laminates. And then that brings us to classification of the various types of packaging. Now, in terms of decoration, I know that one of my fellow presenters will be talking about printing in detail, but what I've just done here is to mention various ways through which you can improve the aesthetics of your packaging. The first one is through printing, and there are very different methods of printing. You have the digital printing, you have lithography, flexography, rotogravure. All of these are different methods of printing your packaging. They all have their advantages, they all have their limitations, they all have their cost implication. So depending on what you want to do, if you have a discussion between the technical team and the marketing team, and then your supplier, you will be able to know what best printing method you should use for your packaging. Other ways of enhancing appearance of packaging, you can do UV vanishing to get high gloss. You can do foil stamping. I wish this was a physical class. There would be examples to demonstrate all of this to you. UV vanishing, foil stamping, hot foil, cold foil. You have lamination, embossing, which is where you have a part of the design raised up. It just gives it a premium and a beautiful finishing. You have metallization to give it some shiny appearances. You can also use special effect inks to get those effects. You can have holographic inks, metallized inks. All of these will help you to bring out beauty of your packaging. And then in terms of plastic, you can also use your master batches, which are the colored pigments, to give it different colors. There's hardly any color you cannot obtain using master batches. And finally, we talk about packaging costs. As I have mentioned briefly in the presentation, packaging materials are very, very expensive. And it's been said that in the product mix, your packaging costs can go from anywhere between 9% and 40%. That is what I found in doing my research. So that's a very significant cost of your mix, and you do not want to treat it with levity at all. We cannot overemphasize the importance of packaging and its role in product development. So my final slide here says that when you have an excellent formulation, there should also be an excellent packaging to accompany it, and that gives you an excellent product. So thank you very much for your attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much. That was a really insightful, explanation. I'm sure we all understand what products packaging is, and you even touched a lot of topics. You've spoken about GS1, even about the printing. Thank you very much, Ma. So I understand people have questions and they dropped some in the chat box already, but will not, answer questions now till after all the three presenters have, spoken to us. So the next person to talk to us is Daniel Clark from GS1 Global Office. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to present to you today. As our esteemed host has mentioned, I've been working with GS1 now for a little over 21 years. The first half of my life with GS1 was based around barcode testing and imaging of products, and the second half was based on developing those standards. Now I'm one of the newest members of the training team now, and part of the training is to try and to share my knowledge with this barcode standards themselves, all of the GS1 standards with all of you so that you can implement it within your own organizations. So with regards to the presentation today, I'm going to be talking to you about barcode symbology and specifically their placement on products themselves. So in terms of the barcodes and their placement, if we go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to be talking to you today about the barcode placements themselves on the product. Why is it important? How is it something that needs to move forward? So we're going to start with the very first topic, the EAN and UPC barcodes. The main use is for retail point of sale. It can also be used elsewhere within the supply chain, specifically on outer case of products. And the EAN 13 and UPC are the most widely used symbol types in the EAN UPC family. They're very distinctive. You see them on products. They've been in use now for a little over 50 years. So the most common use of barcodes is at the retail point of sale. The EAN UPC barcode typically includes a GTIN, which is the key to product data held in a database. GTIN stands for Global Trade Item Number. The barcode scanner transmits the encoded data, the GTIN, to a computer system for further processing. So now we understand a little bit about the GTIN and the barcode itself. Let's look at why the placement is important and where to put it on a product. So first of all, consistency of the symbol placement is critical to successful scanning. With manual scanning, variation of symbol placement makes it difficult for the scanning operator to predict where the symbol is located, and this reduces efficiencies. With automated scanning, the symbol must be positioned so that it'll pass through the field of vision of a fixed scanner as it travels past it. So respecting the guidance of the GS1 General Specifications in Section 6 will result in the consistency and predictability required to ensure maximum efficiencies. So the GS1 General Specifications states that a trade item shall have no more than one GTIN on a product, but this should not be confused with more than one barcode. Now, a product can have more than one barcode if they contain the same GTIN. So in certain cases, it's even recommended that more than one code be applied for ease of processing, such as random wrap items, is the sandpaper that we've shown here, random cut items, and oversized products like large bags of pet food, etc. The scanning environment will also play a role in the size and placement of barcodes. If the product is both the shipper and the retail item, example would be a case of diapers, there are multiple recommendations to follow with regards to the type of barcode, the quantity of barcodes to be printed on the case, their size, and the placement on the product. So the maximum X dimension for trade items that will be scanned at retail point of sale is identified as being 0.66 millimeters, which is equal to approximately 200% magnification. The sizing of the barcode itself is there for the ability, the ease of ability of the scanning equipment to pick it up. So the reason for the size is due to the optical field of view for flatbed scanners, where a scanning portal in a warehouse may be able to capture a much larger area. The ideal size for a barcode for retail point of sale is 100% magnification, and the minimum recommended for general distribution is 120% magnification. So knowing where the product is going to be processed is as important as where to place the barcode. The orientation of a barcode is also important, but this is generally based on the size and shape of the product. The two barcode orientations are a ladder format, where the barcode runs parallel to the base of the product, and a picket fence, where the bars of the code run perpendicular to the base of the product. As I mentioned before, product characteristics impact placement, such as the shape and the size. Smaller cylinders should have a barcode applied in a ladder format, where the bars follow the curvature of the product and that the lines run parallel to the base. The reason for this is so that the viewable bar width isn't impacted by the curvature of the container. As identified in the GS1 general specifications, for a symbol printed at 100% magnification, the diameter of the product should be no less than 60 millimeters. So now let's learn how to use the EAN UPC barcodes correctly. The front of the trade item is the primary trading or advertising area, which typically displays the product name and the company's logo. The back of the trade item is directly opposite the front and is preferred placement area for the barcode on most trade items. Even more specifically, barcode placement on the lower right quadrant of the back, respecting the proper quiet zone areas around the barcode and the edge rule. When possible, the barcode must not be closer than 8 millimeters or farther than 100 millimeters from the nearest edge of the package or container. Previous guidelines suggested a distance of 5 millimeters as a minimum. Practical experience has shown this to be inadequate. For example, cashiers often grab the edges of bags and other trade items with their thumbs, so avoid placing the barcode too close to the edge. Such placement reduces the efficiency at point of sale. We're going to look at some of the exceptions for these rules. So although this category is referred to as bags, these packages and containers are often called sacks or pouches. This category includes paper or plastic containers that are fold sealed on both ends, for example, flour or sugar bags, fold sealed on one end and pinch sealed on the other, for example, potato chips, a pinch sealed at both ends, such as cough drops or candies, and fold sealed on one end and gathered at the other end, for example, bread. Bags have a tendency to have contents that shift and bulge. Consequently, barcode placement must be on an area of the bag that is most likely to remain flat. When bag contents settle, the bag edges can bulge to the extent that barcodes located on the lower right quadrant may not be flat enough to permit successful scanning. For this reason, barcodes on bags should be placed in the center back about 1/3 up from the bottom, as far from the edge as possible, while respecting the edge rule. Blister packs are determined as being pre-formed clear plastic bubbles or blisters containing a product and backed or topped with cardstock. To ensure quality scanning, the barcode must be clear of the blister edges. So avoid placing the symbol under the blister pack or placing the symbol over any other perforations on the back of the package. This may nullify the ability of the code to be read. The preferred placement on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, and remember always to respect the proper quiet zone area around the barcode. An undesirable alternative would be on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge, respecting again the proper quiet zone. When we are looking at bottles and jars, normally these products carry spot labels applied to confined areas of the package, so not covering the entire surface or wrapping around the entire perimeter. Application of barcodes to the neck of the bottle is not allowed. Symbol placement on the neck of the bottle necessitates additional handling at point of sale, and space limitations on this area of the bottle usually result in symbol truncation and poor reading codes. The preferred placement on bottles and jars is on the lower right quadrant of the back, near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone areas around the barcode. An undesirable alternative would be on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zones as well. Just a note, if printing directly onto the glass or plastic, remember to ensure proper contrast. A lot of organizations will use the product contained within the packaging as the color for the creation of the barcodes, and this can yield inconsistent results, ending up with a barcode which doesn't scan. When we look at boxes, those are anything that are cuboid or cylindrical card or plastic cartons, as well as rectangular sleeves used for products such as light bulbs. So these packages might contain anything from crackers to cereal to detergent. There's no unique considerations really that apply to this packaging type. The preferred placement guidance should be used for this type of packaging. So that being on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, always respecting the proper quiet zones around the barcode. An alternative, less desirable, is on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge, again respecting the quiet zones. When we look at cans and cylinders, these are basically cylindrical shaped containers, usually made of plastic or metal, that are sealed at each end. Some containers may have removable lids or openings. Common examples of this type of packaging is canned fruit and vegetables, paints, and adhesives. Obstacles such as the beading seams and ridges around the package or container should always be avoided because they'll reduce the scanning performance. When a barcode is printed onto a curved surface, it's sometimes possible for the extremes of that symbol to disappear around the curve. So the preferred placement is on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, respecting the quiet zone. And the undesirable placement would be on the lower right near the edge of the front, respecting the quiet zones. Again, depending on the curvature of the particular product, you may opt more for a ladder format rather than a picket fence format. When we look at carded items, these are generally small, loose, or non-packaged items that are difficult to label. These are placed on cards that are marked with a barcode. So examples would include such things as hammers, toys, kitchen utensils. When placing barcodes on carded items, it's important to take into consideration the proximity of the barcode to the product. Be sure to allow adequate space for the symbol, avoiding any obstructions that might be caused by placing the symbol too close to the product itself. In addition, do not place the symbol over any perforations or other obstructions on the package. Again, the preferred placement of the barcodes on this type of packaging is on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone areas around the barcode, and an undesirable alternative is on the lower right quadrant of the front. We have egg cartons, which are basically molded pulp, foam, or plastic cartons, and they come in different sizes according to the number of eggs contained. The recommended symbol placement is on the side of the lid portion of the egg carton that opens and closes to cover the eggs. The reason for this is that the uneven surface of the molded bottom of an egg carton prevents barcode placement in this area. So the preferred placement is near the edge on the right half of the back above the hinge of the lid, respecting the proper quiet zones. The undesirable secondary placement would be on the lower right quadrant of the top on the lid adjacent to the opening closing mechanism near the edge, respecting that same quiet zone. When we look at jugs, jugs are glass or plastic containers with a built-in handle that aids in pouring the contents. Jugs normally carry spot labels applied to define areas of the package, not covering again the whole entire surface of the trade item or wrapping around the entire perimeter of the item. Again, recommendation of the application of the symbol to the neck of the jug is not recommended. Placement of the symbol on the neck of the jug necessitates, again, additional handling at point of sale, and the space limitations on the neck usually result in symbol truncation. Preferred placement is always on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone, and the secondary would be on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge. In all of these, the secondary placement is generally where, if it is a single label that is applied only to the front with no label to the back, that's a secondary, less desirable alternative where you can place the barcode. Any package or container weighing more than 13 kilograms or having two dimensions greater than 450 millimeters is considered a large, heavy, or bulky item. So large, heavy, or bulky items tend to be hard to handle. So it's recommended that two or more symbols with the same global trade number be applied. Ideally, one on the top and one on the bottom of the opposite quadrant. There are also the possibility of adding special labels. So a special double label with a tear-out barcode may be applied to large, heavy, or bulky items that are too heavy or awkward to pick up and pass over a fixed scanner. This type of label has one section that's permanently adhered to the item's box or to a hang tag or card if the item is not boxed. And this section has a non-human readable information text, so the number and item description printed above a full-size barcode. Beneath the perforation, there's a second section that contains exactly the same non-HRI text and an identical full-size barcode. The two sections are virtually identical, except that the section below the perforation has no adhesive on its back. That allows the cashier or the person scanning the barcode to detach the secondary code to be able to bring it to scan it if they don't have a mobile scanner to be able to use it. You'll see these items on such things as mattresses, sofas, any large items that may or may not come packaged. When we look at multi-packs, multi-packs are single items that are packaged together as one unit or trade item. Multi-packs provide convenience to the consumer and may represent a price reduction compared to purchasing items individually. Typically, multi-packs contain bottles, cans, jars, and tubs. Now, the preferred placement is on the lower right quadrant of the back, near the edge, again, respecting the proper quiet zone. An undesirable alternative is the lower right quadrant of another side near the edge, respecting the quiet zone, not necessarily restricted to the front. There's a special note for canned multi-packs. You should always try to avoid placing the symbol on the top or the bottom of these types of packaging, since the cans have a tendency to cause impressions in the corrugate cardboard to distort the symbol, and these can impressions in the symbol may reduce scannability. As a second special note for multi-packs, remember to ensure that the barcodes on the individual units are obscured so as not to cause confusion at point of sale. So the barcode on an item packaged in shrink film or that is vacuum formed shall be located on the flattest surface in an area free of creases, wrinkles, or other types of distortions. The preferred placement is on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, again respecting the proper quiet zone. And the less desirable alternative is on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge, again respecting the quiet zone. Remember that if you're printing directly to plastic, ensure that proper contrast and try not to use the product contained within the packaging as the color, as it can lead to inconsistent results ending up in an unscannable barcode. Thin items or containers or packages with a dimension less than 25 millimeters, either height, width, or depth. Examples of this type of thin item would be containers are pizza, powdered drink mixes, and writing pads. Any placement of the symbol on the edge hinders effective scanning because the symbol is obscured from the cashier and is likely to be truncated. So the preferred placement for the codes on these types of products is on the lower right quadrant of the back, near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zones. The less desirable alternative is on the lower right quadrant of the front, near the edge, again, respecting the proper quiet zones. When we look at trays, this type of package includes a thin, square, rectangular, or circular tray, generally holding the items that are covered in an overwrap of clear shrink film or are vacuum sealed. So examples of these include meat trays, pastries, snacks, pies, or pie crusts. The preferred placement is on the lower right corner of the top near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone areas around the barcode. generally due to the packaging methodology that is used and the overwrap techniques. When we look at tubes, tubes are cylindrically shaped items or containers that are either sealed at both ends, such as a sausage or refrigerated dough, or that are sealed at one end and have a cap or valve on the other end, such as toothpaste or caulk. Preferred placement is on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone around the barcode. An undesirable alternative is on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone as well. Tubs are circular containers. They're generally made of paper, plastic, or metal that have removable lids. In most cases, they have spot labels that do not cover the entire surface of the container. Examples of these include margarine containers, butter, ice cream, and whipped toppings. So the preferred placement would be on the lower right quadrant of the back near the edge, again, respecting the proper quiet zone. And the undesirable alternative on the lower right quadrant of the front near the edge, respecting the proper quiet zone. You'll oftentimes see it as well on the top. The top, again, is undesirable as stacking of the products and friction can sometimes damage the code, making them unreadable. So now we're going to look at some other considerations with regards to barcodes, with regards to selection of where it should be placed. So you've heard me talk about truncation, specifically when we were talking about bottles, jars, and the like. And I want to go into a little bit of what truncation is. Truncation is the reduction of the height of the barcode relative to its width. So what truncation does is that it limits the scanning effectiveness of the barcode reader. The more that the height of the symbol is reduced, the more critical it becomes the alignment of the symbol across the scanning beam, meaning it must be well placed within the viewer area. The larger the symbol or the taller the bars, the easier it is for the scanner to collect a successful read. So a truncated barcode may only be used if there's absolutely no possibility of printing a full-sized barcode. For example, when printing on a very tightly curved surface, such as the marker that you see here. Another item for consideration is for the color of the barcodes. So the colors and type of ink you choose for your barcodes are very important. The barcode scanner sees the symbol differently when compared to the human eye. A barcode with dark bars on a solid-like background is essential for successful barcode scanning. As typically the barcodes use a red light as a light source, anything that is red is actually picked up as white by the barcode verifier. So when looking at that, acceptable colors, the most suitable and reliable color combination is black bars on a white background. Bars must appear black under red light and may be therefore black, blue, or green in color. The background may be white, red, yellow, or orange. So cool colors for the bars, warm colors for the background. There's a caution that we have here. Reversed out images or white bars against a colored background are not permitted. The scanners are not calibrated to invert the color combination. So red inks also should be avoided because the scanners use that red light, and marking with red ink basically sees a large white box for the barcode scanner. Best is always the dark bars, and dark bars on a dark background should also be avoided because it is seen as one large black box to the actual scanner. So as highlighted on this example here, ensuring that the print quality of the barcodes that they can scan the first time, every time, can be a challenge. GS1 member organizations run barcode verification services to help ensure that barcodes meet GS1 standard requirements. Again, we should always try to avoid where the product contained within the packaging be used as the dark or light color for the reading of the barcode. Thank you very much for your time today, and we'll be available for questions at the end.
All right, thank you very much, Daniel Clark. Thank you for giving us a deep understanding about barcode placements, the right color to use, even though we are considering our product designs and everything. So I understand people have questions, but like I said earlier on, would only take questions after the third presenter. Thank you very much. So we're going to invite Mr. Wale Obasanjo, to the principal partner of My Gift Prints. So he's going to tell us about design and everything. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Wale. Please, are you there, sir? We're waiting for you.
We can't hear anything. You're muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right, very good. Yeah, my name is Mr. Wale Shola. Yes, I would like to speak on good production in print packaging. The first thing I want us to consider here is design for print. Design for print. First of all, try to consider the kind of product you are going into and the kind of product you want to print. First and foremost, design for print has to do with your design. Design for print has to do with your design, how you want the product to look like. The first thing you have to consider is the color combination and color connotation. Color combination and color connotation has to put into consideration when you are making your design. And another thing I want us to consider is good packaging. Whether you want it to be packaged in bottles, or you want it to be packaged with plastic, or you want it to be packaged with cartons. Those things need to be considered. Another thing I want to talk about here is what kind of substrate are you printing on? Are you printing on paper? Are you printing on nylon? Are you printing on plastic? Are you printing on a glass? Or are you printing on metals? Or are you printing on a sack? All these things, all these measures need to be considered when you are considering a very good outlook for your product. So what are the processes that you can use as far as printing is concerned? We have lithography, we have flexography, we have gravure, we have screen printing, and we have the direct imaging, which is new now. That is a direct on any substrate. What is substrate? Substrate is anything you can print on. Any surface you can print on is substrate. Now, my co-speaker has tried and has laid more emphasis on paper, which is made from wood pulp. So when you are printing on paper, you know, you have to consider so many things. And we have types of paper. We have bond, we have art, we have matte, we have card. Most of the cards are used for packaging, like FBB, like chipboard, and monocartons. Monocartons, all those things I just mentioned lastly now are used for packaging. So now, when you are considering more on packaging, we have to talk of monocartons, like the blood tonic pack, they are all monocartons. Like so many other products that they use monocarton for. If you can remember Omo, then in the days, before it was now packed with polythene, they were formerly using chipboard, I think, yeah. So all these things we should put into consideration. The another thing I want to talk on now is nylon. We have laminate materials, we have PP, we have sleeve wrap for bottled water. We have so many. Then we have to talk of plastic. If you are considering plastic, we have to talk of shrink wrapping. What are these processes of shrink wrapping? After when you've designed your work, because printing house process, after when the work has been designed properly, then there's what we call the image carrier. In paper, it will come in plates. In nylon, it will come in cylinder or stereo. Those are the image carriers. The inscription of images, whether light reading or long reading, on the image carriers. Now, on plastic, when this image carrier is printed on the substrate, it will be weighed on the bottle and it will pass through the hot air to shrink wrap the bottle of the container, to take the shape of the bottle of the container. Then we have to talk about the glass. How do you transfer images on glass? Glass, most of them, they use adhesive sticker, and most of them are direct images. We print directly on glass. The other thing we should talk about is metals. If you can remember vividly, like the Coca-Cola bottle, you can see that it has a cork. Coca-Cola bottle has a cork, and that cork is being printed on, like a Momotina cork and all that. Anything that has to do with metals, you can print on them. All those are another printing process. The other thing I want to lay emphasis on are sack. Sack. We have normal sack and laminate sack. Your semolina, and you can also use nylon, laminate nylon. Your rice, You can print on nylon, you can print on sack directly with your image carrier. We have normal sack, we have laminate sack. So all these things need to be put into consideration. And we have print finishing. After printing on all this software, we have an additional operation that you can put to secure your printing for the product to last more longer, or for the product to look more beautiful. Firstly is UV varnish. Secondly, you can do foiling on it, maybe gold foiling or silver foiling. We have the embossing. Embossing is divided into two parts. You can use a metal block to raise for any embossing on any packaging. We have one that we do with wet ink by using a thermographic powder to emboss. We have the normal one for mono carton, that is the normal lamination. And lamination is still divided into two parts. We have the nylon, we have the gloss. All of them are nylon. We have the nylon, we have gloss, we have matte. And we have UV. UV is bestly used for mono cartons. Now, most especially pharmaceutical products. UV is put in under consideration. Then we have another auxiliary operation like die cutting. Die cutting is to get a specific shape of the product. Easy folding, creasing, sealing point. We consider die cutting. Then another one is spot lamination. Is another essence of beautification on any packaging. Spot lamination is another beautification on any packaging. So when a character is spot, maybe the name of the company or the food or whatever you've designed, you want to showcase them more. You want the packaging to be beautiful. You should consider spot lamination. Yeah, these have mentioned design for print, printing process, and additional operation we have on any printed matters. Now, I want to speak majorly on, I want to go through packaging in few things. And I believe you are familiar with all my printing terms. Now, if you are trying to package any product, please consider the color you are using. Please take note of this. Consider the color you are using, because every color has their own language. You cannot say you want to produce bottled water and you are using red. It is not possible. Every product, depending on the color you're using, and every color has their own language. Now you are producing bottled water and you are using red to design. Please put it under consideration. Water, consider blue, royal blue, light blue, sky blue. Then you can use any color to complement it. Design for print production is more or less you are putting on a cloth that you need to complement the color. You are wearing a red shoe, you have to put a red cap. This guy is beautiful, or this baby is beautiful. You have to complement the color when you are designing for print production. If you are producing bread, you want to make bread nylon, consider the color of the bread. Brown, milk, yellow is very, very important, and is a key. Most people going into production doesn't know this. And I always tell them that when you're producing any product, when you are designing the product, you need to consider how to use your color. Color in print production is very, very important. Then another thing is effective of your barcode. If you are printing anything on any substrate, please, I think my co-speaker have explained more on barcode, but I want to relate it into printing. Make sure your barcode is well registered. Make sure your barcode is well registered, because a barcode can be printed with 4 colors. And if the machine has a registration problem, there's no way that barcode can scan. So always spot your barcode with just 1 color when you are designing for print. Spot your barcode with 1 color, because so many problems that we will face, maybe a customer leaving a company coming to our company, I put barcode on the product, the thing doesn't scan, we check the barcode, we use our magnifier to check it. I will see that this barcode is being matched with 4 colors. It cannot work, please. Make sure your barcode is being spotted with any of the color, just 1 color, clearly printed. Please, on this presentation, because of the nature of my work, because I just came back last night, so sorry for not giving you my slides, but I believe a group will be created that I can be able to talk to whoever needs to ask me questions, and I will give you people good answer. That is, I'm talking of print finishing. Now, when you're talking of print finishing, both in mono carton and in nylon production, please, first of all, the ruggedity of the product. Where is the product going? Where is it going? Is it going to stay under the sun? Or is it going to be up? Or is it going to be put on the shelf? Please, that should be considered. Then I'm moving to plastic print now. When you are bringing any product out, I think the first thing is for your mold. Please, when making your mold, try to consider where the labels will be placed on the product. Very, very important. All these measures need to be put in place. All these measures need to be printed in place. And when you are considering any product, please, your labels, how the product will be packed, whether it will be packed in the nylon or you will use a corrugated cartons to pack it. Please, all these things need to be put under consideration. Then, lastly, I want to make mention of how product is being packed. First thing is our corrugations, or it will be packed with a packing bag, which is the nylon. Everybody knows that. Then I want to speak more on corrugation. On corrugations, we have 3-ply and 5-ply. We have C flute and B flute. On corrugation, we have white top and brown top. Brown top is the craft paper. On corrugations, we have 1 color, 2 color, multicolors on corrugations. So everything can be printed on corrugation. So the image color we use on corrugations, we use stereo. If you are printing any carton, you have to do your design for print, then you make your stereo. Your stereo will come with the dimension of the carton, and it will be confirmed before printing. So when you are trying to consider any product, please direct it, please start from design for print to the finishing of that product. To the finishing of that product. I've talked about sack, I've talked about printing on metals, I've talked about printing on glass bottle, I've made mention printing on plastic, I've made mention printing on nylon, I've been mentioned printing on paper. But I want to make emphasis on nylon now. We have laminate material. Nylon have an image carrier, which is either stereo, digital stereo, or you can use your cylinder. Most people use cylinder for packaged products. Most people use cylinder for packaged products. Most people use cylinder for packaged products, and most use digital stereo for packaged products. So I think with this few explanation, you can ask me questions maybe after this meeting. I think printing is good. Printing is good. If you have a very good and good design for your product, I believe as far as my gift printing is concerned, we can be able to carry your product out excellently. Thank you for your time and thank you for your audience. May you remain blessed. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Wale. Thank you very much for, telling us all about printing and the right type of, package to use for our products and showing us some of the designs. So quickly before we go to question and answer, I would like to, introduce the CEO of GS1 Nigeria in person of Mr. Tunde Odunlami. Hello, Saeed, sir.
Hello, Grace. Hi. Okay.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I thought we were not going to do this. Okay, so sorry, everybody. I'll just say a quick thank you all for joining the webinar. And also, I hope that all the speakers have been able to impact knowledge that everybody will be able to take on into their business. GS1 is here to help, remember that. If you have questions, I believe we are moving on to the question and answer section now. But the team is always available for further inquiries on what we do. Our aim is to bring knowledge that is impactful to your business growth. So I believe this whole seminar was actually put together to help you understand the importance of labeling and also the barcode images on your products. This is how your product communicates with machines that optimize supply chain efficiency. And this is how your products will be able to travel efficiently so that when you produce, you want those things to get to the consumer. You want it to get to them on time. You want it to go through an efficient supply chain channel. This is one of the major building blocks that is being discussed today. So I won't say too much, but I'll just repeat what I said initially. Thank you for joining us. And we hope that this whole session and the time that you have given to be with us is fruitful and that you've learned quite a lot. We are all here to help. Remember that, and you can always reach out to us. Thank you. Over and out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. All right, so we'll go fully into question and answer, and we'll take it in order of how it has been asked. So the first question, I think this is for Mr. Wale and Mrs. Josephine Atabo. The question is from Mrs. Doris Obodo. Please, what is the best way to package garments, textiles, and apparels? Please, it was the honor to answer the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. I will just make an attempt based on everything I have spoken about earlier in the day. So you would want to consider what are the, what do you want to achieve in packing your garments, for example? What are some external factors that can affect it? I would imagine something like water, smell from the environment, such things would affect your garment. So you go for a packaging type that will be able to give you protection from water, from moisture, and you also go for a package that has good barrier properties that will not allow smell. For example, if it is kept in the midst of other things, you don't want the smell to come in. So I would imagine you would do something like a laminate that has good property in wrapping.
Hello. I think we lost Mrs. Atabo. She's not here. The network is bad. Okay, Mr. Wale, are you still there? Can you continue? I think our network connection is bad at the moment.
No. Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
welcome back, Ma. We can hear you.
Oh, so you didn't hear my response?
At a point, we could not hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
was just advising her to use packaging that would be able to provide the required protection. So for the fabric, for the garments, I know she wouldn't want water or smell to be able to get into them. So she should seek packaging that has protection from moisture. So a plastic film, for example, that will protect them from water, from liquids, from smell. And then for the apparels, which I believe she's referring to jewelries, I said those would need a kind of packaging that can give some support, some protection from external pressure. It's like you packing egg, you put them in a container that there will be no direct pressure. So she would probably go for a box that would not allow any external pressure get directly on the jewelry. So those are just some top of head answers I'm able to give her for her request. So I hope she finds it useful.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Mr. Wale, do you have any other inputs to that? All right, so let's just go to the next question. The next question is from Abiola A. So the question is, what's the printing parameters recommended for effective scanning of barcodes? So this question is going for Mr. Daniel Clark. So can you please help us answer that question?
Absolutely. So when you look in the GS1 general specifications, they'll talk a lot about the different sizing and magnifications. And when we talk about a barcode, a UPC or an EAN13 at 100% magnification, that's the optimal size for printing. Generally, that's on paper. So there were a few things that you may want to look at for the printing parameters. Flexible plastics, for example, we recommend it doing it 120% or larger. Now, the reason why we tell you to go larger is that when we're grading a barcode to see if it's printed properly enough to be read properly, the larger the code, the more the percentages work in your favor. So you can have a little bit of an alteration in the widths of the barcodes, the bars which generate the barcode, which will then still allow it to be passable to read. It would fall into the parameters for the scanner to be able to correctly read the barcode itself. So there are a couple of parameters, a couple of things you need to look at with regards to the parameters. One is packaging type, plastic, paper, metal, glass, and again, where is it going to be read? So those are some of the considerations.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So the next question is still for you, Daniel, which is is the height of the barcode dependent on the size of the container or packaging material on which it would be written on? Did you get
This
the
is
question?
absolutely, this is a question that we get very, very often, specifically for barcode testing. The answer is confusing, and I'm going to try and clarify it as much as I can. The answer is yes and no. Obviously, the size of the packaging will determine what the maximum code size you can put on it. However, when you look at going for certification of the barcodes, packaging size is not a consideration, meaning that one of the parameters for pass-fail is truncation that I'd mentioned in my presentation. So if there's no side of the packaging which is large enough to contain a full-size code, your product will actually fail a barcode certification because it doesn't meet the minimum parameters. Where I was doing barcode testing in Canada, we used to give a letter of exemptions, which basically informs the retailers to say the packaging in question has no surface area which is large enough to support a full-size code. The problem with it is that there are very few packages that do not have a surface large enough for a full-size code. Generally, what happens is that the marketing department does not want to use all of the real estate of the product packaging to put a full-size code and have only a tiny space left to market the product. And generally, it's a push and shove within the organization itself to determine how small can we make it where it'll still be readable at point of sale. So although the size of the container will determine how big a code you can put on it is, when going for certification, the only import to the tester of that barcode is can any surface area of this product support a full-size code? So I'm hoping that answers your question.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. So for some GS1 Nigeria member that are present here, you know that we offer the barcode verification service. So in case you have your barcode on your products, maybe you've made just one, like a sample product, you can always bring it to our office for us to, help us verify before you do mass production. So I can't see any other question here on the chat box, but I would assume some of us still have question. So if you have a question, you can just, raise your hand so that you can unmute and, ask the question.
Don't connect. Oh, no.
Hello. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear
Yes, we
you.
can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Please, I want to. The ladies that spoke now said if you want to do barcode verification, so that verification, the one I did the other time, it was like 10. So they gave me 10. I paid for 10. So the verification, are we going to pay for another one or just for you to verify? Is there any payment involved?
Okay, yeah, so thank you very much, Ma. As a GS1 member, all you need to do is before you run mass production printing, just give us a prototype of your print work and it will be verified for you free of charge.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. But please, can you also track the other ones that one has done with you?
Okay, yes, Ma. We
Okay.
can actually, if you come to our office, we can actually discuss the terms on other images that are
Okay,
not
okay.
good from the GS1.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, are you still at?
Yes, we are still at 77 Obafemi Awolowo.
Keja.
Yes. So far, the image is gotten from GS1 Nigeria. Our barcode verification
Okay.
service is free. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. We can hear you.
Hi. So I wanted to ask, so while you're trying to acquire the GS1 codes online, some people still get to pay for the images, right? So I'm wondering if you do pay for the images and you're giving those images, do you still have to come to verify it? If GS1 gave you those images, why would you have to come verify it at the office?
Okay, yes, thank you very much for that question. So what the verification is meant for actually is to ensure that your barcodes are well printed and to give you the assurance that it is going to scan after using our JS1 verifier by Axicon to like verify. So yes, if you are paying for images online, it is still advisable that before you print in mass, you come and verify with just one sample.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So there's another question here. Someone is asking, Chris Emeka is asking if it is a one-time payment for the barcode. All right, so the proper person to answer this question is actually our admin / financial officer. And yeah, so Madam Sinat, over to you.
Okay, hello, thank you for that question. Yes, our barcodes, it's licensed to your company and it requires an annual renewal fee every year. So to the answer to your question, is not a one-time payment. So it's subject to annual renewals every year, year in, year out, to register with GS1 system Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have another question here. It says, do I need to come for the verification of the image after I've gotten it? What is the implication? So the barcode verification service is an added service actually. So it's your choice if you want to, come down for the verification. But it's just to avoid cases whereby you've already done mass production, you're taking it to the retail stores and you have like thousands of your products, then you find out that it's not going to scan, or you've placed the barcode wrongly on the, you've placed the barcode wrongly on the products. So that is why we actually advise that you come down to our office for verification. So Mr. Odunami, Mr. Tunde would like to say something to us.
I would just like to comment on the last two questions that you had. First and foremost, we all need to understand that GS1 does not sell barcodes. We don't sell codes. Just as Sinat has rightly said, what we do is we license the number. There's a lot of communication around here locally where people say, I want to buy barcode. We don't sell barcodes. Nobody sells barcodes. So we need to understand that. We only license the number. And then you will probably need to ask me, why don't we sell the numbers? Okay, so we don't sell the numbers. We license them because the numbers are gotten from our own number banks, which in collaboration with all other GS1 member organizations across the globe, makes it possible for you to be able to trade globally without issue. Now, one of the greatest guarantees that GS1 brings to bear is the fact that that number, once it is licensed to your organization, will not be licensed to anybody else, and it will remain unique in a global supply chain system. So if you license a barcode from GS1 and then that barcode ends up in let's say Ghana or Canada or US, it's the same number. You don't need to change it. You don't need to modify it. That same code works. Now, one of the services that GS1 Nigeria has added to what you will get is the fact that when you license your number from the team, you get access to a product management portal where you will be able to describe your product in full, put the product images, put the description and everything. And this makes it possible for retailers across the globe to be able to access your product information. So that also gives you an additional benefits in terms of making sure you have a global reach. And when you look at the market right now, with the pandemic and everything that has happened, there's a lot of shift from brick and mortar now to e-commerce, where you have people ordering online from all our various e-commerce platforms like Jumia, Konga, and all of them. You want to be sure that your product information is correct every time that it shows up on any website. So this is one way of making sure that happens. So these are the things that the team do for you. So those are the reasons why we don't sell the numbers. We license the numbers because the numbers requires maintenance. And for as long as you're using them, you keep renewing your license to use that number, you are legally able to use it anywhere. Now,
We lost the audio.
sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Right. So the second part of the question that I was talking about verification, the team was trying to explain to you that we offer verification service free. And when we talk about verification, it's not about just, it has nothing to do with the number, although we have a way that you can verify that you have a genuine GS1 number. We have a different portal where you can go to, you can key your number to verify that that number has come out of a genuine GS1 source, so that you are sure that you are not being, what's the word I can use here? You are not being scammed, you are getting a genuine number. The verification they are talking about is the image quality, because once you get the JITIN, get a company prefix, you get a JITIN from us. Once you have that, you then go to convert that to an image, which is basically what this seminar has been all about. And I believe the speakers have done a lot of justice to that. Now, that image that you generate, which is the barcode, the lines, is what you are verifying. When you come back, before you go roll it out en masse, as the team has said repeatedly, it's a good idea to bring it to the office so that they check it for you. They make sure that all the things that Dan talked about, the orientation, the size, the color, the quiet zone, everything is in order, so that when your product gets to the retailers, there is no problem when they scan it. So the retailer doesn't get frustrated trying to sell your product, having to wave the scanner over it repeatedly before the image is captured. So that's what you're doing. And as long as you are a member of GS1 Nigeria, as mentioned, that verification, we currently don't charge for it. We just want you to know that you can come back to us. Let's run a verification on the image before you take it out for mass printing, so that you can know that whatever goes out from the print shop, it's coming out with a peace of mind. Okay, so those are my few additions, just to help clarify issues. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunde. So we have one more question here for Madam Senator of the Finance Department. What if one skipped the yearly payments of the renewer? I believe that's what the person is trying to say. What will happen to the already licensed barcode?
All right, thank you, Mr. Emeka. We advise members not to skip yearly payments of their annual license. Because for instance, if it falls within the number bank of 1 to 10 GTENs, your annual license fee is 10,000 naira for a year. That is after 1 year that the number is licensed to your organization. So if you did not pay, probably, I don't know, maybe financials or the likes for a particular year, when you come the following year, you have to pay the accumulated renewals on that account. So we try as much as possible to ensure that members doesn't skip renewals. So it will also ease their payment processes. Like, okay, if you have 10,000 naira this year, just pay. Next year, if you don't pay this year, and next year when you come back, we are paying 20,000 naira. So, and it might actually stress the company or the financial burden on the organization. So we advise members not to skip their yearly payments. So I don't know if I'm able to answer your question in that regard.
All right, thank you very much. I believe Madam Sinat has answered the question that you asked already. So, hello. No muted.
Is our network?
Hello.
People can hear you. You're connected.
No problem. If you need a number to call, we have. I would paste it on here. So if you want to chat with us on WhatsApp or you want to talk to our membership departments, we are ready. We are always here. So we'll give you a number to call. So I don't know if anyone has question. Is there anybody that has a question? Because we'll be rounding up the meeting now. I think that's negative. So I would like to thank everybody for, attending this webinar. I would like to thank Mrs. Josephine Atabo for her presentation. It was really beautiful. I'd like to thank Daniel Clark and everybody from Global Office present in this webinar. Thank you very much. I also like to thank Mr. Wale Obasanjo, the principal partner of My Gifts Prints, for being present on this call as well. And I like to thank Mr. Tunde Odulami, CEO of GS1 Nigeria, all the GS1 Nigeria, members and every attendees of this meeting. We are really grateful that we have, invited you for this webinar and you've attended. So if you have any other question, you can always reach out to us via our email, enquiries@gs1ng.org, or you can call the number on the screen. You can also chat this number up on WhatsApp. Our membership support is always ready to, respond to anything you might need from us. Thank you very much. So, and we'll be having more webinar. So please, when you see it, click on it to register, share with people you know. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
There was one we said the last time, just look at it. After my sentence, will change. But Sabbath can take everything. Okay. But if so, that's one time they say negotiate 1 week.
We'll go back to your records, to your presentations when so no problem, since you asked for it, it's only proper when the presence
I don't think he did. To me, I don't think he did. I don't think he did. Because he said he was going to do the work. You will put it down. So, I want to go and he just delivered the ones again yesterday. The same.
Wọ́n kọ́lọ́gbọ́n ẹ̀rọ yẹn ẹ̀jẹ̀ wọ́n àwọn èèyàn tó ti wà ní tẹ́lẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ and show me that one you go to apply that application. Okay.
Don't reach compacts only represent again. But you compare to senior man. And now that don't be okay now. The senior man we get grade. The girl we go see call am boss.